Hi there, and welcome to the What's New webinar for the latest release of Mission Control. Version 1.48 will be available on the App Exchange as of Friday, the 12th of October, 2018. And we're pretty excited to show you everything that we've got coming in this new release. So let's get started. Okay, so at a high level, what have we got coming that's new? So we've got a number of new major features. So you can see here we've got a number of major features listed, such as the program planner, the project builder, program charts, and action pads. So we're going to drill into each one of those in a bit more detail in a moment. We've also got a few minor features to existing functionality within the system, which we'll cover off as well. Now, just before we actually jump in and take a look at those features, I just want to take a moment to actually talk through all of the key objects that we have within Mission Control. So that we've actually added in a number of new objects over the last few releases. So I wanted to make sure you're aware of all of the functionality. So obviously we'll talk about the project in a moment. Over on the left-hand side, we have the role. Now the role is a record for an individual person that can be assigned as a resource on a project. Underneath that role, you can build out a profile for each person. So what skills are they capable of doing? What teams are they a member of? And what holidays have they got coming up? So all of those attributes come in handy when you're trying to resource a new project. You can filter down and say, well, I've got to have someone on this team. They've got to have these skills. And taking into account existing workload plus any holidays, I can make sure I'm going to be assigning the most relevant person to that project. So at the project level, we track things like the budget, we track two lots of financial rates, we track the billing rate and the cost rate. So the billing rate is what we're charging our customer to do the work. The cost rate is what we're paying our team to do the work for us. So by tracking both of those, we're obviously able to track the profit and loss of the project as well. Now, sitting underneath the project, we have our milestone. So think of the milestone as a phase or a stage or a sprint within a project. Within that milestone, you can capture the actions. Now, the actions are the individual tasks that are assigned to people. You'll see there that each action has an owner. You'll specify start dates, end dates, and the estimated effort that you think is going to be required to deliver that task. Underneath the action, you can have what we call contributors. So contributors are additional people that can be added to support the action owner in delivering that piece of work. The checklist items are a set of subtasks that sit underneath the action simply to compile a to-do list of the things that you need to tick off. And we can also record time in the time logs object. So the time logs capture all of the time it's actually taken us to deliver that piece of work. That rolls up to the action all the way up through the milestone and the project. And it gives you the ability to compare how you thought you were going to work versus how you actually work. So you can compare your scheduled and your completed hours. So therefore you can assess whether you've delivered more or less efficiently than you thought you would. Some additional objects underneath the project, we have the ability to track our expenses. We can keep a log of any risks we're concerned about. And two new objects that are coming in this release are the ability to track issues, and we can also associate additional opportunities to an existing project by submitting a change request. Further objects underneath the project, we've got the ability to raise billing events, so invoices or credit notes. You can apply tax rates to those if required. You can have multiple line items. You're able to generate those invoices as PDFs that you can send to your customer, and then you can record payments back in as well. So another few new objects that were added in back in our last release sit above the project. So we have our program. So ultimately the program comprises of multiple projects. Within that program, you can be capturing all of the high-level requirements that you're trying to fulfill within that program of work. And then underneath each requirement, you can start documenting the user stories, so the detailed information that needs to be delivered as part of that requirement. And you can associate those user stories to particular personas that are being catered for by that program. So taking a look, a quick high-level look at these new features. So the program planner is basically that as a reminder, the program sits above the project. And if you're managing a project, you might be having a number of requirements that you need to deliver, and those requirements might get delivered over a series of projects. So what the program planner allows you to do is actually capture those requirements, and you can put them into the backlog, a priority backlog. You can assign them to projects. You can document component, the user stories and checklist items. So ultimately, if you're looking to manage a longer program of works across multiple projects, you can keep a track of that high level requirement information from this program planner. We're going to take a closer look at these during a demo in a moment. So another taking that requirements board onto the project, we've got another new page coming in called the project builder. So once you've allocated your requirements to a project within that program, you can actually come to the project builder and basically convert those requirements over to actions within a milestone. So this is allowing you to build up the entire project plan using that backlog of requirements that have been allocated to this project. To give you the ability to choose what analytics you want to see at a program or a project level, we've added in a number of new Lightning components. So so basically we've got 10 new chart components that are now available, and if you're using Lightning Experience, you can add those to your own custom page layout, or if you're using Salesforce Classic, you can actually add all 10 of them in one Visualforce component directly to your page layout. So you might not be interested in requirements, but you might want to take a look at the budget or the resource allocation. So you can pick and choose which charts you want to have available to you on your page. So obviously we do take into account customer feedback all the time. We are getting new suggestions coming forward from customers, and one question we used to hear a lot was, where can I send my workers to actually just see a list of all of the actions that have been assigned for them to work on? Now obviously the answers were where you could go to the timesheet, you could go to the action object and look at a list view, you could go to the whiteboard and filter it to your own actions, or you could you can look at the timesheet or the resource scheduler. So what we've added in now is what we call the action pad. So this is a component that basically works as gives you a working pad that you can spend your day on. So you can actually use this as a standalone page to see a list view of actions, or you can actually apply it to an individual project. So what it's going to do is show you a summary of analytics. So how many actions have we got? How many how many are overdue? What hours have been done, and what checklists have we actually completed? In addition to that, we have the working area at the bottom of the page. So this is going to let you see all of the actions. So if you're viewing the action pad on a project, it will filter to show all actions relating to that project. Or if you're looking at it from a standalone page perspective, you're actually able to filter based on the action object list views. So it gives you a lot of flexibility on which actions you're looking at. So the table of actions will be there visible for you. You can sort by any column. You can see who the owner is. You can access the contributor information. You can log time, and then over on the right hand side you'll have a section where you can actually get into the detail of the record, or collaborate with colleagues via chatter, or tick off your checklist items. Now, I just mentioned we've also added in a new object called issues within this release. So in a similar design to the action pad we've just talked about, we're also adding in an issue log. So again, it works as a standalone page or on a project, and it gives you the ability to see what issues have we got, what's a high priority, and you can quickly capture new issues and manage those through that issue log. We mentioned briefly the change requests. So ultimately, change request, depending on when it comes in during the project, might have a different impact. So ultimately, the change request object allows you to relate additional opportunities to your project. So you've got the ability to create the change request, and you can do one of four things. You can increase the project budget to reflect the scope increase, or you can decrease it if the scope has decreased, and you can also choose to increase or decrease the opportunity amount that the opportunity is linked to as well. Back in the last release, we added in the timesheet, and the timesheet had the ability for each user to actually customize their own settings within their timesheet. So we had some feedback from customers, and they were looking to be able to centralize the management of that setting configuration. So what we've done is added the ability to be able to manage that from the console. So rather than letting each person do it themselves, you can actually override that and apply those from the control pad of the console. In addition to that, we've also had another request from customers relating to the timesheet where they don't want people to have the ability to look at everybody's timesheet, but if they are the timesheet approver of a person, they would like them to have the ability to look at their timesheets. So we've added in another field on the role object. So there's already a field called Manage Timesheets. The new field is Manage Subordinate Timesheets. So if that field is ticked, that person will be able to look at other people's timesheets providing they are their timesheet approver. We've also added in some additional permission sets. So we already had the mission control full permission set. We've added in 8 additional options, hopefully just trying to cater for various scenarios that we see coming through from customers. So you can provide classic only access, you can provide lightning experience only access. You can also assign it to, you can assign full access without any access to the apps. So if you want to create your own app navigation menu, you can do that. And then we've got somewhere, customers don't necessarily want to show certain team members all of the financials relating to the billable and cost rates. So we've got a number of permission sets that will give you full access to the system while excluding visibility of those individual fields. And then we've added one in that would just simply give you read-only access. And just to cover off the minor enhancements, the Gantt chart, what we've added in is the ability to persistently turn on or turn off the auto scheduling button. We've added in some additional logic to the project trigger that was already in the system. So basically now, if you update the status of the project to complete, it will automatically update any milestones with a status of planned or in progress. They will automatically get marked as complete. And if you mark the project as cancelled, any milestones that have a status of planned, in progress, or on hold will automatically be updated to cancelled as well. And you do have the ability to turn that trigger off from the control pad if you want to. The whiteboard has just seen two minor enhancements based on customer feedback. So when you're clicking the Add Action button in the top right corner, it will load the context user's role record by default to save you having to select that. And the other feature is that the whiteboard Lightning component now is able to be added to the project page layout as a standalone component rather than having to be accessed through the project overview component. 2 new fields that have been added onto the project object. So obviously the PMO dashboard, this gives you access to the CPI and the SPI figures. What we've done is added in 2 new fields to the project called current CPI and current SPI. And if you're using the weekly action progress tracking process, you will those 2 fields will be populated on a weekly cycle based on how you've got your tracking process scheduled, and they will be updated on a weekly basis to give you the current CPI and SPI figures. So that means they're going to be available for you to include in reports and so on. There is also an automated chatter notification that occurs on the billing event object when the automated process creates the billing event PDF. So we've actually added in the ability to turn that chatter notification off. And again, that's a new option in the project automation settings within the control pad on the console. And finally, we've added in an additional section into the Daily Digest, which gives you a timesheet summary. So it gives you a quick insight into this week and last week, and it shows you how many hours you've logged. It breaks that down between billable, non-billable, and holidays. So it just gives you that daily reminder of where you're at with your time logs. Okay, so what we're going to do now is actually jump in and take a look at some of those major features in a bit more detail. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to take a look at is the program planner. Now, you access the program planner from the management pad of the Mission Control console. So you'll see here we've got this new tile available where we can go in and look up existing programs and then jump through into the program planner. So the example I'm going to walk through is where I'm actually managing a big implementation of Salesforce for a customer. So what I'm going to do, I've already created my program, so I'm going to go through and say, okay, well, I want to select this program and I want to go through to the planner. So this is what it looks like by default. So you get your two columns for your backlog and your priority backlog. Now, what I can do here is actually start creating new requirements. So putting it into context of the Salesforce implementation, I'm going to say, you know, what requirements does the customer have? So they want to use the leads object. They want to use the accounts object. So I can just quickly add in some additional requirements as I'm working through with the customer on what they're looking to do. So now that I've got those, what I can actually do is start dragging and dropping these and working out, you know, which ones are my key priorities, what's got to be done immediately. So I can work out my backlog and my priority backlog. What I can also do is actually pull in projects and start assigning these requirements off to my projects. So over on the top right here, I've got the ability to do one of two things. I can upload an existing project, or I can create a new project. So what I'm going to do first of all is actually just go and grab some existing projects that I've already created, and I'm going to load those into the program planner. Now, what I can also do is, let's say I haven't already created my project. So what I'm going to do is actually create a brand new one from here as well. So if I say, okay, well, I need a phase 3 implementation project as well. So what that will do is just give me the ability to quickly create and associate that new project to this program. So I've now got my 3 projects, and what I can do is start working out when are these requirements going to be actually delivered. So I can say, well, you know, my phase 1 has to be doing leads, so I'm dragging these requirements over and associating those to the actual project. So we might be installing Mission Control as part of phase 1. What I can also do is start building out requirements against each of these projects as well. I don't have to put them in the backlog first. So we might be doing, you know, some additional apps like Conga Composer might be going in phase 2. We might be using Get Feedback as well. So then I can start pulling these things over as well. So I can quickly build out my requirements backlog as I need to across the projects. Now, once I've created my requirements, I can start drilling into the requirement in a bit more detail. So let's take a look at the leads requirement in this example. So if I click on this icon here, that's going to open up a page that gives me access to the requirement record. I can also look at my user stories that associate to the requirement, and I can also look at my checklist items as well. Now, what I'm able to do is add in some additional detail on the requirements. If I click into that to edit that, so I can make this a high priority item. I can set my categories. I can put when it's required. So if I say this has got to be done by such a date, I can put in some additional information around that requirement there as well. So if I go down and save those changes to that requirement, what I can also do is start building out some user stories. So if I click through to the user story and add a new one, so what I can say is so I've obviously already created some personas here. So I'm going to say as a sales rep, I want to be able to automatically have my inquiries generated in Salesforce. So I'll just fill in the rest of the details here. So what I'm saying now is, as a sales manager, I want to be able to see a list of sales reps and how many prospects each one of them are managing. So you can build out the user stories in as much detail as you want. In addition to that, you can also build out the checklist items. So the the checklist items once you convert the requirement over to an action, the checklists will also be parented over to that action as well. So you'll be already familiar with accessing those checklist items from pages like the whiteboard. So again, putting it into context of configuring the lead object, what I might want to do is I might need to do web to lead form. So I can assign that to the relevant person and put in some notes. And then I can keep building out the details of the checklists as needed. Okay, so all of that's been done. So now if we jump back to the program planner, you'll see that we've got some additional information being displayed here. So now that we've got our user stories, we can see that there are user stories associated to this requirement. We can see how many we've got. We can also see how many checklists items we've got. I flagged this requirement as a high priority, so my flags changed color, and I can also see I've got a due date on when I need to get that done. Okay, so hopefully that gives you an idea of how you might be able to use the program planner to build out those requirements and associate them to projects. What we're going to take a look at now is the project builder. Okay, so again, back on the management pad of the console, we have another new tile that gives us access to the project builder. So what I'm going to do is now go in and start building out the detail of this project. So I'm going to go through to the phase 1 implementation. Now we've already associated some requirements to that project via the program planner. And you'll see here what I'm looking at is I'm on the project builder for this project, and I can already see the milestones that I've already created. So I've got a milestone for solution architecture, one for development, one for third-party apps, and one for delivery. Now I do have the ability to add new milestones and actions directly from here, but I've also got this tab over on the right-hand side that lets me see the requirements that have been allocated to this project from the program builder. So from the program planner. So you'll see there's the four requirements that we associated to this project from that program planner. So what I can do is actually just drag these requirements over onto any of these relevant milestones, and what that will do is actually convert the requirement into an action on the project. So that's now taken that requirement, it's removed it from my backlog because it's been converted, and I've now got a new action sitting on the project ready to have more detail added to it. So what I can do is actually work out which milestone each of my requirements are going to be assigned to, and start building up that project detail. Now, as I mentioned, I can also add new actions directly from here as well. So I could be adding in actions to the solution architecture or the delivery or even the development and third-party apps milestones. Okay, so now that I've converted my actions, what I can do is actually start assigning them from here as well. So if I click through onto the roles tab, you'll see I have a list of all of the role records similar to the whiteboard. And what I can do is actually just start working out who's going to be doing this work. So I can assign the actions to individual people, and then obviously I could be going in and editing each action to go through to the resource assignment wizard if I actually wanted to work out who was going to, if I needed any contributors helping these guys as well. Okay, so hopefully that gives you a good idea of how you can take those requirements and quickly build them out into a project plan of projects, milestones, and actions. So we're now going to take a look at the new charts that have been added in as individual Lightning components. And as a reminder, these are available for you to use on the program record or the project record. Now, what we're going to do in this example is jump through to our program. Now, I've already configured my page layout to have these charts available, which you would do through the Lightning app builder. But let's take a quick look at each one of them. So you can see here, I've got a chart here summarizing the budget across all of my projects relating to the program. I can see how many requirements I've got and where they're currently sitting. So whether they're in the backlog, priority backlog, or what's already been assigned to a project. Scrolling down, I can get a summary of how many overdue milestones I've got within each project. I can see how many actions we've got in total to do, what's already been done. I get the resource allocation chart, which shows me all of the people that are working on the projects and how much effort has been scheduled to them, what they've already done, and what they've got left to do. I also see a summary of all of my hours across all of my projects. Carrying on down, there's two charts giving me some information around the risks that we're capturing, and then my expense summary and my billing event summary. So as I mentioned earlier, these are there for you to pick and mix and choose which ones are important to you. You can obviously change the position of each one on the page as well. And as I say, to add those to your page in Lightning, you simply use the Lightning app builder. If you're using Salesforce Classic, it's available as a Visualforce page that you can drop inside your page layout. We're now going to take a closer look at the action pad. So again, as a reminder, the action pad is available as a standalone page, or you can use it in context of a particular project. Now, I'm going to go to the progress pad of the console and access the standalone page. Now, what I've got the ability to do is filter this down based on whatever list views I've already created on my action object. I get my summary of charts, so I can see how many actions, based on the actions that are appearing in this list view, what's actually what's been completed, what's left to do, is anything overdue, do I have like how many hours, and then obviously what checklist items have been completed as well. So then if I scroll down, you'll see that I get this working section where I can start to build out the detail. So I've got a list of all of the actions that are being displayed based on my list view setting. I've got the ability to sort by any of these columns here, and over on the right hand side, I've got this work pad where I can actually access the detail of the individual record that I've selected. I can collaborate on chatter, or I can go through and manage the checklist items. So if I select, so if I move from the one I'm on, if I select another one, you'll see that it gets populated over on the right hand side and all of the detail changes. Now, if I scroll over, depending on the width of the screen that you're working on, you can scroll over and you also have access to things like the dates, the hours, who the owners are. You can access the resource assignment wizard, and you can also log time as well. Now, what I'm going to do now is jump through and take a look at it on one of the projects that we've been working through in our demo. So I'm going to go through and select the phase 1 implementation for RipCurl. So you'll see that I've now got it available as part of my project overview, so I can click through into that. Now, if I want to give myself the full page, I can collapse the trackpad. So now if I scroll down again, I get the same information, but it's now just filtered to only show me the actions on this project. So what I can do here as well is actually quickly create new actions. So what I can do, so let's say obviously I've got this, I've got these things that are allocated as part of the development and third-party app milestones, but I might want to build in some detail on other milestones. So as part of my solution architecture, I could say, well, okay, well, I'm going to be responsible for this stuff, so I'm going to assign myself as the owner, and then I can just quickly start creating actions. So what happens in the background, the action gets created, it automatically pops into the list there. So this gives me a place where I can quickly create all of the actions that I need, and then I can go and add in the detail after I've done that. Okay, so obviously you've just seen there how I've quickly been able to create new actions. As I mentioned earlier, you've also got the ability to sort by any of these columns here. So, for example, if I click on the end date, that will organize everything by the end dates that are existing on the records. I can sort by any one of these columns. Another new feature that we've got is a hover component that when you hover over the contributors icon, you can actually see who the contributors are. So you can see each person that's been assigned, whether they're the action owner or a contributor, and you can see how much scheduled and completed effort has been allocated to each team member there. So basically, wherever you see the contributor icon, you'll be able to hover over and view that component to quickly see who's been allocated that work. So we're now going to take a look at the issue log. So the issue log is a similar page concept to the action pad, and you can access it via a specific project overview or as a standalone page. So as we're already on the project, what we're going to do is jump through and take a look at the issue log for this one project. Now, obviously, we don't have any information displaying because we haven't identified any issues yet. But what we can do in a similar fashion as the action pad, we can start creating issues here. So I can identify, who's found the issue. So I'm going to associate those to myself, and then I'm going to actually start capturing the details. So just by quickly creating the issue there, it's populated the list. You can see it automatically updating the charts above us there as well, and then we can come in and add more detail as we go through. So I'm just going to quickly add in a few more issues here. Okay, so now that I've got my issues, what I can do is start adding in a bit more detail. So if I click into one of those, I can populate the information on the right-hand side and then jump in and start adding in a bit more information. So I could be categorizing this as, what type of issue is it? So it might be general, bug, training, and so on. So I'm just going to flag that as a bug. I'm going to say it's currently awaiting review. I'm going to identify when I found that issue, what priority it is, and then what impact it might have as well. So as I do that, you'll see that the data starts to get displayed here, and also my charts has shown me the information. So obviously I'm working at the individual project level here, but I can also look at that as a standalone page. So again, if I go back through to the progress pad, I've got a new tile to access my issue log, where again, similar to the action pad as a standalone page, I can filter down using list views that I create on my issue object. But again, I get my summary across all of my issues, and then I can scroll down and see all of the details, again, sorting and creating new from here, and I can manage the detail. So hopefully the action pad and the issue log are both going to be pages where you can spend your time being really productive and getting things ticked off your list. So we're now going to take a look at the new change request object that has been included. So the change request object sits as a junction between projects and opportunities. So in our scenario here, we've got our phase one implementation for RipCurl. You can see the current budget is $10,000, and if we were to go through to the detail page, we would see that this project is relating to the phase one implementation opportunity that we've got in Salesforce. Now, let's say a scenario happens where Ripcurl come to us and say they need to add in some additional scope for this phase one project. They can't wait till phase two. So unfortunately, we can't absorb that. So what we're going to have to do is charge them some additional fees. So we can go off and create our opportunity, close win that, and then once that opportunity is in the system, we can come through and create a change request linking that additional opportunity to the project. So we've got our change request object here. So I'm just going to click through and create a new change request. So I can specify the amount. Now I close one the opportunity, so I know that it's $2,000. So I'm associating it to the project, and I'm going to actually link through to that opportunity as well. Now I've got two options here. I can choose to adjust the project budget and or adjust the opportunity amount. Now I know the opportunity is already set to 2,000, so I'm going to leave that false, but I'm going to set this one to true, and then I can put in some detail around here as well. Now, once I save that, what happens is obviously the change request gets created, and if we take a look back at the project now, you'll see that the budget has automatically been updated to reflect both the original project budget and the increased scope based on that change request. So the final new feature that we want to run through with you now is the additional settings that have been made available for the timesheet. So as a reminder, the timesheet, each user has the ability to come and click this settings icon and manage what they're seeing on their timesheet. So for example, I might choose to remove the checklist icon, so I'm not going to see this, and I could, for example, choose to hide the project action number as well. So this is me modifying my own personal settings on my timesheet. So rather than having every single user do that or being able to prevent individual users changing what they're seeing, we've got the ability now to actually manage that at a company-wide level on the control pad. So if I go to the control pad on the console and I scroll down, you'll see I've now got this new feature for the timesheet settings. So I can tick the box here to override individual user settings, and then I can choose what people are seeing. So for example, as a business, we might decide that we do want people to see that project action number, and we do want people to see the chatter. So by overriding it and making those adjustments ourselves, so we can save that here. And now if we go back to the timesheet and look at it from an individual user's perspective, you can see those columns have been added back in, and I've lost the ability to override the timesheet settings myself as an individual user. So certainly if you are wanting to have a uniform approach, we hope you enjoy being able to manage that via the console rather than having to get each individual user to update their settings. So we hope you like what you see in the new features. While we have you, we would just like to give you a quick overview of the release schedule. So when is it going to be available? So as of the 12th of October, it's going to be available from the App Exchange should you want to get your hands on it early and manually upgrade by clicking the Get It Now button. If you have more patience than that, you can wait, and on the 20th of October, it will automatically be upgraded to all sandbox orgs, and then on the 27th of October, it will be added to all production orgs. Um, Not necessarily related to this release at all, but we thought while we have your attention, we would just let you know of a few additional things that we've been getting up to. So we've actually just recently launched a new website, so it has a lot more information available for you. And two of the new things are a searchable knowledge base and a learning portal. So what we're going to do is just jump in and take a quick look at those, just so you're aware of what resources you have available to you to make sure you can get the most out of mission control. So let's take a quick look now. Okay, so this is the homepage of the Mission Control website. So obviously it has a lot of information relating to the overall application. You can obviously view pricing and high level features. From a resource perspective, obviously things that you're used to seeing already, things like user guides, training videos, case studies, and release notes. Two of the new features that we've included are the knowledge base and the ability to learn more about mission control. So we're going to take a closer look at those, and we also have the ability to support to raise support tickets if you need to. So first of all, I just want to jump into the knowledge base. So basically, this is just a series of FAQs and knowledge articles. So for example, if you're wanting to understand how to set up the project overview, you can quickly just search based on what you're looking for and then jump through to the relevant article. So if you're wanting to know more about what the project overview is or how to set it up, you can jump through to the relevant knowledge article, and that will give you the detail that you need. Now, obviously, if you don't find the answer to your questions, by all means, you can jump back onto the Mission Control site and raise a support ticket. Now, another new feature is the ability to learn more about mission control. So we've got this learning portal here, and what we've got here are two different courses. So if I click through, so what you can do is actually register yourself as a user in the learning portal. You can choose whether you're going to be studying mission control from a team member's perspective or from a project manager's perspective. So you can see here I'm working through the project manager's course. So if I click into that course, you'll see that gives me a list of lessons that I can work through. So it will walk through the scenario of what you're going to be taught and the context of it, and then it shows you all of the lessons that are available for you to work through. Now you can see I've already completed 3, and it's remembering my progress. Now if I drill through into the next lesson, you'll see there's content there where you can actually talk through and learn about that specific feature within mission control. And then once you've read all about it, down the bottom there's a knowledge check where we'll ask you a few questions. Obviously, we're establishing whether you get those right, and then you can move on to the next module. So that's all available for you on the website now. If you do have any questions, obviously, regarding any of those resources, by all means, get in touch. And with that said, I would like to just finish up by saying thank you. We obviously appreciate your ongoing support for the product. And to wrap up, I do hope that you enjoy all of the new features. And obviously, we're already hard at work on the next round of features as well. So any feedback or any questions, by all means, we would love to hear it. So we look forward to hearing how you get on. Thanks. Bye.